It is time for Rockin Company's Rockin' CU, brought to you by the family-owned and operated Colorado Modern Masonry and General Contracting Firm. 5 decades, 2 generations. Build it with rock, build it with Rockin Company, rockandco.com. And we welcome our frequent guest. He is the publisher of BuffStampede.com, Adam Munsterteiger. Catch him on Twitter at AdamCM777. Good morning, Adam.
Good morning, guys. How are you?
Doing well, doing well. Not as well as Colorado's basketball team, we'll put it that way. And I want to talk a little bit about that, and then we'll get to what's happening with spring football, including 2 dismissals of players that saw the field last year in areas where the depth could be an issue. But certainly Colorado did everything but beat Utah when they played here, and Josh Scott put in the outstanding defensive performance on a lottery pick, Jakob Poeltl, a 7-footer from Austria, who stars for Utah. If this is a big game if Colorado can find a way to win a big one on the road this year.
Yeah, it would be, without question, obviously a tough matchup. If Colorado somehow pulled off the upset today, it would actually mark the best regular season in the program's history, over 100 years. So they definitely have a lot to play for. You look back to that game against Utah in Boulder, and aside from Josh Scott's defensive performance against Jakob Poeltl and George King's offensive performance, shooting 8 for 10 in that game, the rest of the team shot 30% in that game. They actually out-rebounded Utah, but just did not play a good offensive basketball game. Again, I think Utah's obviously a tough matchup. Number 8 RPI right now. They've won 6 games in a row, 7 in a row at home. It's going to be senior night for them. Brandon Taylor, a senior for them, has been playing good basketball recently. Jakob Poeltl has said publicly that he's leaned towards leaving for the NBA, which would seem to be a smart decision for him since he's projected as a lottery pick. So they're obviously going to be keyed up as well. There's a lot of incentive in this game, but again, I just don't like Colorado, the matchup in this game for them.
You know, I like the matchup size-wise. Colorado's a better rebounding team and really a bigger overall team with the double posts inside with Gordon and Scott. Brandon Taylor, you mentioned, really scares me. He's not the most talented guy on the team, maybe not the second most talented guy on the team, but he just beats teams. He just hits big shots and wins them. But, you know, when I look at Scott stopping Poeltl, and I think about the next level in the NBA, which will be interested in a 6'10 guy with finesse skills who will go and play defense and will hit the boards like Josh Scott, I think of the Poeltl game as the biggest calling card he has as an NBA prospect.
I think so. Yeah, it was really impressive. I mean, on one end of the court, Utah's having to double team Josh Scott, and on the other end, he's going man up on Jakob Poeltl, and Jakob Poeltl goes 2 of 8 in that basketball game. It was one of the more impressive performances without question, and kind of showed you if Josh Scott's going to have, and I think he will have a long career in the NBA. I've said I don't think he's necessarily going to be a star or a starter in the NBA, and some people take offense to that, you know, and think that I'm bashing Josh Scott's potential. I just, in terms of he doesn't have that next level athleticism, but I think, if he can prove to be a defensive guy like he did that day against Jakob Poeltl, and if he can prove it again today, that will be something that he can kind of hang his hat on at the next level. And obviously he's crafty offensively and can do some things there. I think if Josh Scott's going to have a really successful NBA career, he'll have to step up on the defensive end. And so that was encouraging to see him be able to do that against, again, a guy that is likely to be a lottery pick this year.
I agree, because I've expected Josh to expand his offensive skills more than he has. And I believe he's capable. I think he's had great touch around the basket, especially his first years up there at Colorado. So I think there is a chance he will blossom next level, but I haven't considered him a great prospect for that reason. Bruce Marshall, a guest on this show you're familiar with from the Gold Sheet, has Colorado as the last of the 8 seeds, probably playing the first 9-seed Pitt at the next level. In his projection earlier this week, Joe Lunardi carries Colorado as an 8th seed. But Mark, my partner here, Mark Knudsen, wants everybody to be paranoid because you just can't trust the
Jerry
the seeding
Palm has
committee.
them as a 7.
Wow.
I mean, they clearly belong in the tournament. I've seen our state stung a couple times, and I think Tad would probably say the same thing. Win the tournament to make sure. Win the Pac-12 tournament to make sure you get in.
Adam, I don't think they can slide past so many teams that they're out this year. But should we be confident?
You should be 100% confident. It's guaranteed that they're going to be in it. And I totally understand kind of that paranoia. You look at
that's all it is.
And obviously the comparison you're going to make is Tad Boyle's first team that
Yep.
was as talented, maybe even
Yep.
more talented than this Colorado team, but their resume that year, Tad Boyle's first year at Colorado, was not nearly as good as this Colorado team. Their RPI that year was 65. They had multiple bad losses on their resume. This Colorado team, even after today, if they lose, they're still going to have an RPI projected around 30.
Yep.
No losses at this point outside of the top 100. And the lowest power conference team to ever get left out of the NCAA tournament was Missouri at number 44 in terms of the RPI ranking. So there's really no chance of them getting left out. Now, you'd like to see them somehow claw themselves out of that 8-9 matchup and get up to a 7 seed, because then obviously you would avoid the one if you did get out of the first round, or I guess they call it the second round now. But that would be key. What's interesting in terms of that is for seeding is that. Right now, Colorado sits in that the 5th seed for the Pac-12 tournament, which means they would match up against Washington State in the first round of the Pac-12 tournament. If they somehow lost that game, that would be a bad loss on their resume. It definitely would not knock them out of the NCAA tournament, but it would kind of hurt their seeding a little bit. If USC beats Oregon today, that would slide CU down into that 6th seed against Arizona State. So even if you somehow lost that game out in Vegas, it wouldn't necessarily be a bad loss. It wouldn't be a loss outside the RPI top 100. So that's something to kind of keep an eye on today. If Colorado, even if they lose today, and they should, you would think they'd get a win out in Vegas, matching up against either Arizona State or Washington State.
I'd like to see
them up to 7.
I'd like to see them get the win today, because it would mean that they won against a very good team by putting it together on the road, and this team was solidified for a postseason run. That's what it would mean to me. But let's talk spring football. Cade Apsay, the quarterback who filled in last year when Sefo Lufau was injured and was better than we all expected, had really made strides. Dismissed from the team. Evan White filled an important role on the depth chart as a safety, is gone, although they've signed a new safety, maybe a junior college guy who can come in right away in Trago.
Yeah, in the situation of both Cade Apsay and Evan White, it was a situation where it was multiple violation of team rules. Both guys were suspended at some point last season, so it's unfortunate. Clear that football is not important enough to those guys to keep their priorities in line. Cade Apsay, I don't think was ever going to necessarily be a starting quarterback at Colorado, but was a nice depth piece. Evan White, a depth piece at safety and a really good special teams contributor. You mentioned Kyle Trago, the JUCO safety that they signed. He's going to have 4 to play 3. He'll arrive in May. Still, even with Kyle Trago signing, their depth at safety is a little scary. Chido Beowuze is a versatile guy in their secondary. If they did suffer some injuries there at safety, maybe they might have to move him back there. But there's good attrition and bad attrition, and Colorado's had a little bit of both this offseason. I would put Evan White and Cade Apsay just from a depth standpoint in the bad attrition category.
You know, they don't let you watch practice up there, and they don't let you watch spring practice, I believe. But can we say where Steven Montez is today? Redshirt freshman, haven't seen him play, ran the scout team, grew in many ways, one of which is an inch taller and 40 pounds heavier, now 6'5", 230, and he'll be getting incredible reps this spring.
Well, the good thing about Steven Montez is that he does get all these reps now with Cade Apsay not on the team, Sefo Lufau injured, Davis Webb not transferring in until late May. It's Steven Montez and Jordan Gerke splitting reps, and Jordan Gerke's actually been leaving practice early for class. So, yeah, it's been a great opportunity for Steven Montez. He obviously, the one thing holding him back is that he just doesn't have that game experience like Sefo and Davis Webb, but he's got all the physical tools, and he's got the right attitude. Footballs are very important to him, and he's a guy that, from everything I'm understanding, is if Sefo Lufau doesn't end up redshirting this year, and both him and Davis Webb are out of the program in a year, that it would be Steven Montez's show, and he's done nothing to disprove that up to this point. But we're only 2 practices in here this spring. They're still in shorts. As Mike McIntyre says, they're practicing in pajamas right now. So it'll get a little bit more intense next week when they put the pads on.
Well, in our last 20 seconds here, let's tell everybody, read BuffStampede.com. Adam does an incredible job, especially with the recruiting. Anything special coming up?
Just some more spring football coverage, and I'll be heading out to Vegas for the Pac-12 tournament, so we'll have coverage from out there in Sin City.
Very good. Rockin Company's Rockin' CU, brought to you by Rockin Company, family-owned and operated, Colorado, 5 decades, 2 generations, historic and modern masons, general contractors, rockandco.com.